Hi all, well today's video is all about the compost toilet, in particular the Seperatt Tiny. When we bought the truck I was really keen to buy a compost toilet, and in particular the Seperatt Tiny. I had seen it in various platforms, seen it at a number of shows and thought, yeah, I like that, I like the style, I like the functionality, and I thought that's what we want. Izzy needed a little bit more convincing. So she did her own research and thankfully she agreed that it was a good choice. So I think she's probably better placed to explain more about it. So I will hand you over to my very trusty assistant and wife to explain more about this compost toilet.
Thank you. So when Phil talked about a compost toilet, I felt quite nervous about having one because I didn't know anything about them. So I went off and did a load of research and quickly realised that it was a really good solution if you're on the road. But there are some things that if you're considering a compost toilet you do need to be aware of. So bear with me because this bit might be quite dry, but it's information that I feel that it's important that I share. So you will have heard of composting toilets, and there is a difference between a composting toilet and a compost toilet, which is what we have in the Seperatt Tiny. So a traditional composting toilet starts the composting process, the primary composting process, within the toilet, and that is why you have to add organic matter like coir or soil to the mix that goes into the toilet to make sure that it breaks down into compost or starts that process. The reality is it takes about 6 months to a year for toilet matter, solid matter, fecal matter to break down into something that you can actually call compost. And so you're never actually going to compost your poo in a Seperatt Tiny, in any sort of composting toilet. It's just not possible. Given that the average human produces poo that weighs the same as a giant panda every year, you're not going to cart that around with you in your truck or motorhome either. So there is a significant difference. In a compost toilet, in the Tiny Separatt, there's no composting process starting at all. All that the toilet does is it means that you can deposit the waste onto a compost heap, and it manages that by suggesting that you use compostable bags and compostable liners. Again, in reality, we haven't found a communal compost heap that wants our poo, so you have to accept that the way that you will dispose of your solid waste from a Tiny Separatt or a Seperatt Tiny when you're on the road is to bag and bin it. And so I just wanted to get those key points across to you before we move on to show you how to actually use the toilet and how to empty it and so on. So thank you for bearing with me through all of that, and we'll move on to actually show you the toilet now.
So here is our Seperatt Tiny. So obviously we've got the lid, we've got the seat with the two compartments, and we've got, what I want to show you really is the concealer flaps just here. And then on the inside, I just want to take a second to show you, we've got the 12-volt feed just here for the extractor fan. We've got a little gauze filter in here which feeds into the extract housing, into the fan, through this tube, and in our particular case we've actually extracted through the floor of the truck. And effectively all we have is a big plastic bucket with a couple of containers, which I'm going to let Izzy explain in a bit more detail.
So Phil just mentioned the concealer flaps. They do a great job. When you come in and you lift the lid, you're not faced with a pile of poo basically. So they cover everything that's in the poo bucket. So when you use the toilet, I was a bit sceptical as a lady about how it would work because it works on the separation principle. Poo goes behind, pee goes in front. So I'm just going to show you. When you sit, you have to sit a little bit further back than you might normally do, and this means the concealer flaps are pushed down by the mechanism inside and they open. So the first couple of times I used it, I was obsessively checking that they were actually open and I wasn't going to find an obstacle as I was doing the business. But actually that part of it works really, really well. So concealer flaps open. So the natural anatomy of a woman is front and back. And so everything just ends up going in the right place. It works really, really well. I don't think we've ever had an incident where peas got into the poo bag or vice versa. That would be interesting actually if it was vice versa. So really, that's how you use the toilet in the normal way. It can be a little bit awkward if you like to stand up to wipe, because you then have to push down again to be able to dispose of the toilet paper.
Too much information.
That is true. You sort of work it out. So really, that is where you seat yourself on the toilet and how to use it.
Is that it? Is it that simple?
It is that simple, and you don't even need to flush.
Okay.
So I'm just going to show you how to empty the toilet. This was a job I always hated doing when we had the cassette, but I don't actually mind doing this toilet because it is so easy. So the first thing we do, I have actually already removed the little strainer basket that sits in the hole where the pee goes, and I'll talk about that very shortly. So I usually just take a few squares of toilet roll and pop them into the hole where the pee goes, because one of the things we've discovered is when you lift up the lid, any residual urine that's in there just dribbles all over everything and just makes extra work cleaning up. So toilet paper into the hole, like that, and then we just lift the lid up. So you can see the inside of the toilet now. So at the front is the 7-litre urine bottle, and at the back is a 14-litre solids bucket, for want of a better expression. When the fan is on and the urine bottle is full, I'll just demonstrate to you. The red light comes on at the back, and that tells you that the urine bottle actually needs to be emptied. So it's quite a handy thing to have. For us, we don't really rely on that because we do empty the toilet every day. So I'm just going to lift this out now. It's a really simple process. It just lifts out like that. Just turn the fan off. And you can see here, you've got, this is the hole that the pee goes into, and this is the hole that you use to empty. So this cap comes off here and screws onto here, just to keep that nice and clean. And then when you come to empty it, you take this cap off and it just fits onto there and you can pour out. You notice here at the side, there's a small hole with a little rubber grommet in. That's to let a small amount of air in when you're emptying, to prevent any glugging that happens. You do still get a little bit of glugging, but it's not too bad. It's not very heavy. That was always a problem I had with the cassette. When it was full, it was extremely heavy. So that's ready now to be emptied. So now we come to the real excitement of emptying the solids container. I think we tend to empty it every day, really, or if one of us has had a poo. I'm not keen on sort of carting around lots of poo. Separatt Tiny say you only need to empty it every 5 or 7 days. I guess if you had the fan running 24/7, that'd probably be okay actually. But for us, we just prefer to do it on a more regular basis. So you can see here, this mechanism here contains part of the fan, and it contains the concealing flaps as well. So to empty, you just push that up like so. The bucket has got a handy handle on it, and you can pull it out. Now the bucket also does come with a lid, so you could actually carry it with the lid quite discreetly to a public toilet or a chemical toilet emptying point if you wanted to. For us, we don't do that. So I can't even show you the lid because we don't have it with us. We just take the rim off, which is really tight fitting. It does a great job of keeping the bag in place even when it's full. Tie it up and dispose of it. Today, this will go in with our regular waste because we have an almost full bag of rubbish. Like so. And that's it. That really is that simple. So this morning, we're emptying this. We're actually in Turkey, and there are no public toilets really in Turkey. So we just make a point of finding somewhere really discreet where there are no other people, there aren't likely to be any animals grazing, and we empty there. Obviously, if you were in the UK, you would find a public toilet. So we just take this off here, pop it onto there, and literally just pour it out. You do get a little bit of glugging, but it's not too bad. And once you've disposed of the pee, we usually just pop a little bit of water in the bottom, give it a good swill about. Bit of shake, and then you're done. So now we're emptied, solids waste into the bin, urine container emptied and cleaned. Everything's had a little wipe around with disinfectant, which is obviously a routine job. I'm going to show you how to put it all back together again. So lift off the rim from the bucket. As I said, it was quite tight fitting. Plastic bag. You need a 30-litre bag. We tried 25 litres, they're just not quite big enough. And you really don't want these bags to be overly stretched. So you need a 30-litre bag. So I'm just going to open that up. Now, when you buy a Tiny Separatt, they will send you some of their consumables. Compostable bags, compostable liners, and drain tablets. Their consumables, though, are really expensive. So we went on a mission to see if we could do it a little bit cheaper. So we've used compostable bags. These bags aren't compostable, and there is some interesting thinking about what happens to methane when plastic bags, compostable plastic bags, break down if your poo is going to a landfill site and not to a composting site. So that makes for interesting reading. So at the moment we're using these plastic bags that we buy in Lidl. As I said, 30-litre size, they're cheap as chips. So once that's in like that, you can also use a liner. And this is a liner that basically catches any excess liquid and turns it into solid crystals. Again, the Tiny Separatt Tiny ones were quite expensive, and so we actually bought packs of compostable commode liners that you can buy literally on Amazon. So that goes into the bottom of the bag. So all we do now is take the prepared bucket and pop it back into the toilet. You need to make sure it's seated properly like that. You can tell because the rim and the and this line up, and you'll know if it's not in properly because the mechanism to open the flaps won't work when you sit on it. So that's the solids bucket back in. The pea container here has had the lid removed from here, so you see the plastic seal is exposed, and the other lid is back on here. Again, this has also been cleaned around with disinfectant, and that just pops into the hole. And again, you need to make sure it's seated properly like that. You can pull this out now and push it out one way or the other, and the whole lot comes down. Pop that away. The strainer basket, which holds the bio tablet, goes back into position. The bio tablet is designed to prevent smells and any crystallization of urine. We're in two minds as to whether it works or not. You can't buy them anywhere else. You have to buy them from Tiny Separatt. They're about £12 for 5. Each one lasts for about a month. There have been a few occasions when emptying the urine container, we have noticed a few urine crystals. So how well they work, we don't really know, but we'll keep sticking them in until we run out, and then we'll make a decision. So there it is. That's how you empty and put back together a Separatt Tiny compost toilet. So there you have it. That's our views and thoughts on our Separatt Tiny. It really has been a game changer for us. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments and we'll come back to you. Otherwise, if you found it helpful, please subscribe and click the button for notifications, and we'll see you next time.
Take care. Bye for now.